Welcome everybody, Jack Acid here with ApexHead.com, bringing you episode 9 of the Zero to Hero F1 2012 Career Mode series, and today we will be walking through Hungary as well as Spa. And in case you missed the last video, we are leading the standings by 12 points, but here on turn 3, here on lap 1, having all kinds of problems rolling up over the curb and losing our grip, and that's going to drop us down to P24, but fortunately, by the end of lap 1, we were able to make up a few positions. So here at the start of lap 2, trying to chase down Pastor Maldonado in the Williams car. And don't forget, he had a podium in the last race, so he and I both struggling early on. Let's see if we can make up a few more spots coming around turn 1. And wheel to wheel with Vitaly Petrov, it looked like. Able to overtake him. Now trying to dispatch of the Toro Rosso. Jean-Eric Vergne able to do so here at the start of lap 4. And we are up into P14, trying to track down Felipe Massa, once again coming down into turn 1. And again, no problems getting in behind him, trying to settle in behind Bruno Senna in the Williams car. Now later on in lap 4, trying to get around Daniel Ricciardo coming down into turn 6, a very tight chicane, and able to outbrake him, but still going a little too fast and hopping up over the curb, which is not the first time I've done that on this game, and that's going to allow not only Ricciardo by, but Bruno Senna as well, and relegate us back to P13. And starting to lose the grip coming through turn 9, rolling up over the curb, but ultimately it would not matter. Able to take over a handful of positions before the next lap, coming through the same sequence of corners and trying to track down Red Bull's Mark Webber. Here as we come around a very wide right-handed corner, turn 11. Let's see if we can catch up this group coming down here into turn 12, a very hard braking zone, and almost coming into the back of Mark Webber, able to avoid him, and have to go completely wide to avoid contact with the Red Bulls, so basically my overtake thwarted. But now extremely slow coming around this final hairpin and able to accelerate out of the exit, and we are wheel to wheel coming around the final corner and not able to get around him. Webber able to maintain an inside position. There he goes finally on the left-hand side, and we're able to get down the start-finish straight ahead of him and get up into P9. So that was obviously a lot more work than I anticipated. Now trying to track down Sergio Perez around the same sets of corners, able to overtake the Sauber with ease. And now let's try and get around Nico Rosberg, and as you can see, going way too wide coming around the final hairpin, but just like Mark Webber, easily disposed of once we get on the start-finish straight, and we're not done. Taking a look at our teammate Kimi Räikkönen, and just like that, we are up into P6, heading down here into turn 1, and hopefully that'll be how it remains for the remainder of this lap, which will be the last one before our pit stop. And as you can see, I was able to stay ahead of those cars, but built no gap whatsoever. So hopefully the team can get us out in a short period of time here. As you can see, a number of cars getting by. Pretty quick time, just under 3.3 seconds. And let's see if P15 is the extent of the damage. Looks like I spoke too soon. Here comes Pastor Maldonado in the Williams car. Let's see if we can beat him out coming out of the pit exit. And it looks like we'll be able to stay ahead of him, but overshooting just a little bit. Remember, we are on these ice-cold tires, and they have virtually no grip, but able to stay ahead. And now, as you can see here at the start of lap 9, able to overtake a handful of cars, including our teammate Kimi Räikkönen. And that puts us up into P12. But here on lap 9, coming around turn 13, able to dispatch of Michael Schumacher with ease, and Jean-Eric Vergne extremely slow, and almost coming into the back of him now multiple times, trying to get around him here at the final corner, which we've had so many issues with before, and almost getting tangled up with the Toro Rosso and activating the DRS. Extremely frustrating, getting caught behind the Toro Rosso, and Jean-Eric Vergne not going away, all kinds of commotion coming out of the pit lane, and very, very busy coming around turn 1. And now we've got our sights set on the German Sebastian Vettel, who's been a points leader for most of the season, but now, as you can see here at the start of lap 11, able to get around Vettel coming into turn 1 and dropping in behind Kobayashi and the Sauber. And let's see if we can get some exit speed coming out. And Kobayashi not going to let us by. Let's see if we can get him caught up here at turn 2. Trying to overtake on the outside, and wheel-to-wheel with Kobayashi coming around. Very tricky hairpin, and not going to be able to make it happen. And remember early on in the race when we hit that curb and it spun out and put us in last place for a couple of laps. So obviously going a little bit wide there, probably out of compensation and paranoia. But not able to get around Kobayashi there. But finally, here at the end of lap 11, let's see if we can do some damage coming around turn 14. And no sense in taking chances coming around here. We know how slow the AI is coming out of the exit, and Kobayashi does not disappoint, and we're able to dispose of him to get up into P2, so not satisfied with the podium. We'd like to get ourselves in a position to compete for the win, but the question is, will we? And what I mean by that is after a few laps, I decided that I would experiment and go in for a second set of option tires, even though I don't technically need them, but getting a little bit listless late in the race, I guess, and taking my chances. We'll see if it comes back to haunt me. Coming into pit, and as you can see, getting dropped a handful of spots. And let's see if we rejoin here in P6. No, we will not. Another car going by. It looks like Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes, so we will rejoin in P7. So now skipping ahead later in the lap, able to get caught up with Rosberg, and it looks like Charles Pic in the Marussia car has been blue flagged. In contact there with Rosberg, and now Charles Pic, and now getting told that there was a penalty, apparently for my contact with Rosberg, and now wheel to wheel with Charles Pic trying to get around him. And obviously I must have spun Rosberg out, and unfortunately being told that it's going to be a 20-second penalty, not able to gain any more positions, so my gamble late in the race, obviously a massive mistake with the penalty coming afterwards, and that's going to mean for sure no points for us. And I always have to kind of laugh here watching myself get all excited about coming in quote-unquote 6th, but actually because of the penalty that's going to relegate me down into 15th. So let's take a quick look at the race results. And as you can see, Jenson Button winning the race and Sebastian Vettel coming in 2nd. So my points gain has actually been completely erased, and Sebastian Vettel has leapfrogged us yet again. And adding to tensions is being in a dead heat with Lewis Hamilton tied for 2nd place. We're both only 3 points behind Sebastian Vettel, so obviously very, very unhappy leaving Hungary. But it's going to make things very interesting here at Spa, where you can see our team objective is to finish 19th. So let's get right to it here at the end of lap 1. Trying to get caught up with a very, very good chunk of the field, getting around Paul di Resta coming through the bus stop, and up into P18 trying to chase down Daniel Ricciardo on the Toro Rosso. And it looks like we'll have a number of overtaking opportunities coming down here into turn 1 as long as we don't make contact. So going to look for some real estate, trying to get around both Caterhams, going around on the outside and not getting around either of them. And falling in behind Vitaly Petrov, and now climbing up, trying to go wheel to wheel with him coming down into a Rouge. Obviously a very, very dangerous proposition. Have the line on him right now. Looks like he's going to yield. And thus we are able to come up through a Rouge clean as a whistle. Now trying to chase down Henke Kovalainen coming out on the Kimmel straight, and because it's only lap 2, not able to activate our DRS just yet. Going to have to rely on pace alone. Let's see if we can get around the Caterham coming down here into turn 7, and window closing not going to happen. Let's see if we can stick with him coming around through here as we get a purple sector time. Trying to negotiate with Kovalainen coming around Malmedy, and now coming into the very tricky turn 10, extremely slow. And Heikki not giving us any room at all. You can see almost being pushed off track and starting to lose my grip coming around Ravage, so obviously very frustrating. That held me off for a while, but now skipping ahead here to lap 3, trying to catch up with Kamui Kobayashi in the south. We're able to get by him, and also lining up next to Fernando Alonso. And now trying to compete on the outside of Bruno Senna. Not going to get around him as we come down the start-finish straight here at the start of lap 4. But we have been able to overtake Alonso, currently riding P12. Not sure what's happened to his race. And speaking of, Felipe Massa riding P14, so Ferrari having a miserable day. Sergio Perez extremely slow coming out of turn 1. And trying to dispose of the Sauber, but you can see he's not going away, and we are almost wheel-to-wheel coming down into a Rouge. Not a good place to be, and finally the Sauber backs off as we come up the hill. And able to hold our line pretty well, but you can see got plenty of company here as we get onto the Kimmel straight, and DRS activated, and now getting swarmed by 2 cars. And it's not Sergio Perez, but Bruno Senna and the Williams, no less. And let's see if we can get the place back down here at turn 7, coming in a little bit too fast and almost going onto the runoff, but able to compose ourselves coming around turn 8 and fall in behind Kimi Räikkönen, our teammate. We are now currently in the points. Let's see if we can get around Kimi down here at turn 10. Very tricky and not a great entry for me. Let's see if we can cut on the inside, and not going to happen. Locked up with Kimi. And if I had pushed any further, would have spun him out for sure. So unfortunately not able to get around him there. But should have no problem down here at turn 1 here at the start of lap 5. And you can see we are scheduled to pit at the end of this lap. And close with Kimi coming around on the outside, but able to avoid contact and the marble. And we are able to get settled in P8. So skipping further ahead in the lap, and you can see trying to reel in Mark Webber with Red Bull. And coming around turn 15, an extremely difficult corner, very deceiving, running off into the gravel here. And let's see if Kimi is able to get around us, and he's not going to be able to exploit. You can see that my tires actually are not that worn out, but going to go ahead and pit anyway, even though I'm tempted to stay out. And a correction there. Understeer coming into the pit lane, which albeit is very, very tricky, but annoyingly coming into contact with the wing there, and strangely not seeing any damage made to the wing. Let's see if they actually change it. Maybe it's because I came in. No, they are changing the front wing. So basically the indicator did not update, but we did damage the wing. And that's going to cost us time, all kinds of time, and a number of cars getting out, and we are out in 6.8 seconds, so obviously a very big disappointment in that pit stop. But of course I did not help my own cause by having the front wing damage, so coming in behind Alonso here, and speaking of Alonso, trying to catch up with him coming around turn 10, And he's very slow coming out of the exit, much like Kimi before, but this time able to get around him before we get through turn 11. Very, very tricky to overtake coming through there, so that was fortunate. Turning up our fuel mix now and overtaking a number of cars in the pit lane as we come around turn 1. And there's our teammate Kimi Räikkönen able to get in front of him. And now chasing Jenson Button in the McLaren here at the start of lap 8. Looks like we've got a couple cars up ahead, including Schumacher in the Mercedes, able to get around Button, and not Schumacher, but Mark Webber rather. And now trying to get around the Red Bull before we get down into a Rouge. Looks like that will not happen. So just trying to chase Mark down. Have to be very, very careful. The AI can be very slow coming up through a Rouge here, but not in this case. Mark Webber pretty swift coming up over the hill. And let's see if we can get any ground here on the Kimmel Straight, but Jenson Button not going away. DRS activated. The same will be true for Jenson. And here he comes. And it's a 3-car sprint coming down here into turn 7. Let's see who's got the medal, able to get ahead of Webber, and once again almost overshooting onto the runoff there, but able to get our grip and get the position up into P6. So the AI obviously making me work for everything. And as much as I enjoy Spa, I'm not that great at it. Can't put very good times on here. And so you can see here that the gap to P5 was actually pretty significant, trying to chop off some time to get Pastor Maldonado more in our crosshairs, who seems to be having kind of an up and down season. He's sort of near the top or near the bottom of the grid. Here at the end of Sector 2, you can see shaving off almost 2.4 seconds, so very, very swift coming through there. So here on lap 10, here we go. Chasing down the Williams, coming up Eau Rouge, just like with Mark Webber, and not quite able to stick with Maldonado, and in fact almost going off a little bit. Very sloppy coming up over the hill on my part, but able to avoid the grass. And activating our DRS, and you can see not gaining a lot of ground. The Williams car very fast on a straight line, able to overshoot Maldonado, and you can see just how much compensation I had there getting up over the curve because I was so afraid of going too fast through there. And that almost cost me a spin out, but all ends well up into P5. Now trying to chase down Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes. And last I checked, Michael Schumacher's teammate was leading the race, now getting caught up with the podium in our sights with 1 lap to go. So pretty exciting finish here. Let's have a quick look at timing and scoring, and as you can see, just under 1.9 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, getting things a little bit wrong, rolling up over the grass. But in the end, that gap would be just too much to overcome, coming around the bus stop for the final time, so obviously not able to get the podium, but a close P4. And don't forget, Lewis Hamilton and I came into this race all tied up in points, so obviously him finishing ahead of me by 1 spot, he's going to be able to gain a few points, and Sebastian Vettel finishing in 2nd place, that means he's going to increase his lead. But still, this many races into the season, a very, very tight race going on at the top of the standings, as we'll see here. Only 10 points well, technically 9 points separating the top 3 drivers, so going to be very interesting to see what happens from this point forward, especially in our last stop in Europe for the season, which will be in Monza in Italy. And speaking of Monza, I hope to be visiting it myself personally in early October. I'm going to be spending a couple of weeks in Italy, so I'm trying to get all these videos done before I leave on that trip. So hope to see you guys at the next one, and thanks again for watching.